Well, he could be right. You know, that's the crux of it. To me, what separates genius from disaster and failure is not a function of your passion or your originality or even your intelligence, but whether or not the world perceives that you are right. And nobody ever bought any of Van Gogh's paintings. Galileo had to bury his work so he wouldn't be tortured by the Inquisition. He had confidence that he was right, and he was.
Yeah.
Reich had confidence that he was right. It seems that he was wrong. But maybe, as he says, in 100 years or 500 years, he'll be right, and then he'll be a great genius and appreciated.
True.
There are plenty of people around the world who do appreciate his work and think that he was right, at least to a degree.
Yeah.
The conferences held every year. So I think, to me, that is the key, and that to have someone who he was, up there with Freud and Einstein. I didn't make that up. He really was Freud's first clinical assistant. He really did spend 4 hours with Einstein going over this. Einstein, thought he was off his nut.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, he really was up in that stratosphere of scientific minds. And if he had just stayed, this is what all the people in Freud's inner circle is, if he had just stayed with his character analysis, even though it did break away from Freud, it is still followed to a great extent. Core energetics and all of these things have incorporated all of his insights. He would be thought of as a great man. But because he went into these other directions, and he's so desperate for people to follow him. I mean, I start with that, and I end with that. Do you follow me? That's what he wants. He is desperate to have you follow him. At least intellectually, if not with your lives. And to me, as an actor, that's the driving desire in the piece from beginning to end.
Oh, you as an actor were marvelous all the way through to me.
And so for him, for Reich, to come to the end of his life in prison, made to literally destroy his work, with truly the only person in America ever to see all of his work burned as if he's in Nazi Germany or Stalin's Russia. Thank gosh, people preserved the manuscripts, and all of his works are now in print again and circulated around the world. But for him to go to his death experiencing, and looks in the mirror and sees an abyss, to me that is worth relating, worth telling about, and he has the driving force as a character of, no matter how many people are here, 20 people or 100,000 people, he's trying to get you to follow him and love him and be with him and not abandon him. And that's enough for me.
Yes, I just want to appreciate the complexity that you represent, his complexity and his humanity, because I think so often the narrative about him is that he is a nut, that he ended up as a nut. Maybe he was a nut early on even, and I think the depth of his early life and the thread that you carry through in terms of his humanity and his relationships and his desire for love and for freedom, I was bowled over by it. And the little I've studied of it compared to some others, but the accuracy that you're portraying, the historical accuracy and the human accuracy is really, really a gift.
Oh, thank you. And you know.
Drew, do you have any questions that you would like addressed?
I'd just like to hear from more people.
Do you,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you,
I came up after. Drew, you had me from the first word. You really did.
What moment?
Right away. Right away. And I have to be honest with you, I was extremely uncomfortable because you were him. I mean, you were. And I couldn't stand the pain that he was in, you were in, during this entire portrayal of his life. And it just, I wanted to scream for part of the time. I really did. I wanted to scream, let this man alone. You know, let him live and let him do his work and let him, I mean, he really was so involved in what he was doing and believed in it. And you were him. I mean, you were. So I was really relieved at the end because I didn't want you to die, seriously. But it was a relief to me that it was over.
That it was over.
That it was over.
I mean, did you all understand that he really did die in prison?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just a few days before he was going to be paroled. 2 days
He was
before his
out
parole
of pain
hearing.
at that time, and so was I. I have to say.
Thank you.
okay, and June?
Terrific cuts that you made. I still think maybe 5 minutes. Because there was a certain point with the lawyer, Peter, whatever.
Peter Mills.
Well, no,
I'll cut him completely.
It was an hour and a half. And I think maybe 5 minutes.
All right.
Like, I didn't really care about the girl when you were in prison, the last one.
I
thought-
did.
Well, no. What went through my mind was,
Yeah.
it's going to go on for another 10 minutes,
Ah,
time-wise.
all right.
Wonderful thing that you did with the pictures.
Yes, I was about to say the
which
same
you
thing.
did not do before. And what went through my mind when you brought out the 2 pictures at the very beginning was, the last time I saw it, I thought he was probably insane. But then when you brought those out, the immediate thought that went through my mind was that he had really thought of the MRI before.
Magnetic resonance imaging, yeah.
Before. Because when you did that, so now, and then when you brought out the other pictures, I was thinking of Japan with what they went through with and that this could have been the basis of how your work went on to other people, and that you weren't really crazy. And
I was hoping it would concretize it, to make it real.
Well, it did.
That it's not
Oh,
a
yeah.
fantasy.
no, well, it did, as I say, when I saw that one, immediately was the MRI and the radiation and everything else, and therefore you had me not thinking you were crazy and that you were a genius. And geniuses are often called crazy.
Yeah.
But I would do five minutes.
All right. I'll let you pick it.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Anybody else? And of course,
I want to hear from you. Come on.
Okay, well,
come on, Melody.
I saw the first one and then missed the in-between.
Yeah.
I agree with June that it could still be shaved. I think there's one or two places where it, for me, just still gets overwhelmingly technical, and the fine points of his discoveries and his passions. And
I'll go over that with you. I thought I got rid of them, but
yeah,
maybe not.
you did. I think I had the same response, that the last lover, it's like, oh my God, okay, we get that.
Okay.
That he, but by
Nobody likes
then,
Aurora.
no, by then we know he's really in prison and he's in this final throes.
Yeah.
So I just,
I get you.
know it's truthful,
I get you.
but I think you're playing with hard things. You are opening up the world of Reich to all of us in more detail, and for some people that you'd hope to come to this play, he would be brand new.
Mm-hmm.
For some of us who knew something about him,
Mm-hmm.
there's what a play about him does is different than all the volumes of
Mhm.
his work.
Right.
And I think you brought it into that realm beautifully. I think the segments that are about his, you frame it with these fabulous bookends. We get that isolation and rejection starts as this tiny kid, and we get it at the end, and that's just structurally beautiful. I love making his inventions concrete, and with just those photos, it did it. I also thought some of the sound was beautiful.
Thank you, Emily.
Well,
Well,
I
particularly
just
the
pushed the
burning.
button.
And Lois.
Lois.
And Lois.
The burning of the books, and that this is something that happened in this country to a scientist. Just that sound effect behind it, it was horrible. It was horrible to experience it, watching you go through it. So I think you really brought it a major step forward. I still think, who's the audience? And I think there are still there's just a little too much science.
Okay.
That's the 5 minutes to be.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think so. And I think we are talking 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Well, I can make some suggestions where I think things could have.
This gentleman is a Reichian scholar, by the way. So.
One thing I think I would want you to add is something about his relationship with A.S. Neal. Since Neal is so much better known in this country than Reich, I mean, Summerhill sold millions of copies in the early 60s. Reich's books, when he was alive, sold very little. Once he was dead, I mean, there were more people reading Reich. But that relationship, I think, says something about Reich's thought about young people, and
I'll have that in The Return of Reich.
well, but it was a very important.
Yeah.
It
Oh, yeah.
was the longest relationship he had with any other human being.
Mm.
I mean, he was connected to Neil more than he was connected to Ilse Ollendorf in terms of historical span, and it's a very tight relationship. And I think that instead of the talk about the bions and the experiments on the bioelectric nature of sexuality, I mean, unless you know something, that's just, to an
Well,
audience.
maybe that's your 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I would take that out.
But I wouldn't add.
Well, at least bring in Neil somehow.
Okay.
Because I think that's a significant part of the story. That,
But you felt overall it did Reich justice?
well, I read it the first iteration. This is the first time I've seen you.
Mhm.
I mean, you were incredible.
Thank you.
You
Okay,
did him justice.
Thank you.
all right, did you have,
I'm just curious, a chunk of his work wasn't and that's his whole development of orgone therapy and that whole power of his ideas, which has actually had, in some ways, more impact than some of his scientific inventions. So I don't know what you were thinking about that strain of his work, the therapy.
Yeah, well, I've thought so much about that and
Right.
ways to do it. I was even at one point thinking of bringing someone from the audience and do that. But I try at least to communicate that this is an important aspect of his. And if the result is that people can go out arguing over whether he was nuts or not, and B, that they say, I'm going to read something about him, read an article, read a biography, read one of his books, I'd be thrilled.
Which is actually a great definition of a learning experience. Is people want to read and learn more from it.
Yeah.
You don't have all the answers in it.
Right.
You don't tie it up, which is good.
Yeah, but when you do the piece on therapy, he sounds way over the top. I mean, the way you condense everything into that one, what was a paragraph. Give me your eyes, do this, do
Right.
that. I mean, it makes him sound very...
Yeah, he's flipping out.
And that, I don't think that, people can argue about orgone energy, but when it comes to the therapy, the effectiveness of it is indisputable.
Right. I wasn't trying to make a comment on just what was happening to him, and that he was... But I hear what you're saying. Make sure it's clear.
That was one of the places. Remember when you cut out the
Yes.
thing over here?
Right?
And when you did that, you went on too long for me.
Okay.
It was effective, but it went on too long.
Okay.
And I thought, that's another place.
Good.
And one other thing, and I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong. When you sort of collapsed earlier, as though your life meant nothing,
Yeah.
it almost seemed like the end of the play.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It was like
Right.
a thing, and you had to get yourself back up
Right.
into it.
Right.
And I'm not sure if it should really look like the end of the play, whether it's in the acting of it
Right.
or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, I thought it wasn't a bad idea to do that and then have him resurrect.
Right. But it seemed to me
a little
as
too
though-
low.
A little too low.
Okay.
And that it was
I don't have a
the end of
director
the
yet,
play,
so
and you had to go. Oh, you're acting. You are so fantastic in this.
Yes.
You would get the Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Thank you.
You were fantastic in this. But as I say, it was just
Yeah.
a little, but a cut over there, and then there are a couple cuts that.
I look forward to working with both of you on that. Get it down. Lean.
But you're wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
And doing the photographs did such an about face for me. They were terrific.
Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate it.